Welcome, everyone, to our September 17th Outreach and Network Guild. Thank you all for being here. Yeah, I guess we'll go ahead and get started. So, as always, we start by centering the land, acknowledging the land because the land was here long before we became people and will be here long after we are gone. Everything that we are, everything we experience, everything that we eat, etc., comes from the land and returns to the land, including our own bodies eventually. So, just appreciating that reminder of that deep uh, interconnection of all things. And I like to personally recognize the people indigenous to the land where I live, the Tonkawa people, as well as a bunch of other nomadic tribes who moved in and out of this area for I don't know how long, thousands of years. And I acknowledge all the indigenous stewards around the world of the lands where we live who have passed on and are passing on so much of this knowledge, the knowledge of how to live in right relationship, how to regenerate the earth, how to cultivate the land and heal the land in ways that are beneficial to all beings. There's all so much of this wisdom has been held for thousands and years by our indigenous relatives. And so I recognize our obligation to receive that wisdom with gratitude and love, and also a commitment to put that wisdom into practice, commitment to move towards right relationship with all of our relations, and including ourselves. So, with that said, I will guide us in a short grounding exercise. If you'd like to close your eyes or find a soft gaze, just touching into that relationship with self in this moment, starting with noticing the breath moving in and out of the body, not trying to control or change it, just noticing the breath happening. You might notice the weight of your body on the seat being held to the earth through the force of gravity. And you might have your feet on the floor, noticing the sensation of the floor under your feet. And I invite you to imagine roots coming out of your feet, coming out of your lower body, and stretching down through the foundation of the building into the earth. And as those roots grow down and outward, they strengthen, they get stronger, thicker, flowing out into the underground space. And our roots encounter nutrients, which they absorb, water, which they drink up, and all kinds of creatures, bugs, mycelium, bacteria, all kinds of things. And just notice the feeling of having roots in the earth, deep anchoring connection, exchanging energy with the earth, being nourished and nurtured by that connection. Then I invite you to slowly travel your attention back up the roots, up through the trunk of your body, and then imagine branches growing out the top of your body. I like to lift my arms up and spread my fingers and my palms out wide to imagine my arms as branches with leaves that reach up and out to absorb the sunlight and the carbon dioxide in the air. So we have this equal and opposite connection to the sky and the earth. constantly receiving energy and constantly giving energy back to the environment. When you feel ready, I invite you back into your human body, remembering that your tree body, your tree self is always there too, available for you. And you might wiggle your fingers and toes. And when you're ready, open your eyes and join us back in our Zoom space. And for a check-in question, let's do a oldie and goodie. What is the weather like where you are today? Your internal weather, your external weather, however you interpret that. And the circle as I see it is Ben, Austin, and me. Over to you, Ben.
The external weather is gray and cool, and the internal weather is similar, but with little whirlwinds. Today has not been a focused and linear kind of day. It's been a very twirly kind of day. So hopefully I will be more or less linear here, but that's where I'm starting. Over to you, Austin.
It's hot and hot, hot weather tends to make me feel scattered. It's hard to focus on anything. And internal internal weather is overall very positive, but there's a lot of stuff going on. Also, I'm here with the kids in the kitchen, and they're just making random noises like children do.
Perfect for making tattoos. Stick on ones.
And that's where I'm at right now. On to you, Adam.
It's very hot and humid outside. Love that combo for us. Really great. But it's sunny and the sky is blue with just little fluffy clouds. And I feel like that internally too. I took a walk and got my heart rate up and sweat some stuff out. And I feel energized and awake, which is nice because the last few days I've been very tired and focused on resting. So I feel like that has paid off a bit for sure. All right, so we've all checked in, and I will go ahead and share my screen for our meeting agenda. Can everybody see Asana? All right. So our main update is that we have been promoting the fall semester offerings. We put our first letter news out. Our first newsletter went out 2 weeks ago. We have another one that just went out today. And we've been posting graphics for each of the events. And I've been posting to our stories pretty much every day. And people are seeing them. So that's good. So yeah, we're in full swing with that. We have Connect the Dots starting tonight, which is very exciting. And yeah, are there any other updates that anybody wants to note before we get into the agenda today? Over to you, Ben or Austin.
I just want to let y'all know that I'm going to have to check out early today. I've got a job that I need to get to, but I will stay as long as I can.
Awesome. Thanks for the heads up.
Cool. I don't have anything to add, so.
Okay, great. So we have an agenda, thanks to Roland, which is awesome. Some of these things have been ongoing questions and things we've been talking about. Some of them are new So I'll just go through them. So one of the possible topics is a deadline time for submissions to the newsletter. So I've been the one who's been putting the newsletter together. So how might the order of operations work in terms of, maybe it's by Sunday night, have your submissions in, possibly earlier, depending on when it goes out, and as well as a review process for submissions. So anything and everything that goes into the newsletter, how do we want to review that for feedback and any changes, so that it doesn't feel like it's rushing and happening at the end. Um, and then what is our regular social media presence? What does it look like for the fall for this season? When do things go out? And I put some bullet points under that we talked about previously, and kind of how, like, some things that are already in practice and some things that we might want to do in the future. We also have our strategy for videos, for recordings and privacy. So what is this? Do we want to have a disclaimer at the beginning of meetings? What do we want to say? What does that look like, in terms of people being comfy or not being on the internet? And then the last thing that Roland had suggested was anti-spam legislation in Canada, which I don't know anything about and curious to know about. And lastly, we have our guild seasonal review, which is kind of, I think, pretty timely to get that wrapped up. It's kind of been on the bottom of the agenda for a while. So I think it'd be nice. I don't think it would take that long, but yeah. So I'm curious, of these things, what seem like priorities / what do you feel like you want to talk about during our time today? Over to you, Ben.
Sorry, having a hard time getting to the unmute button. This, I actually, I feel like most of them clump into really one thing, talking through submissions and social media. Anti-spam, I think we can cover in about 10 seconds because I don't think it really affects us in any significant way. And but I am curious about kind of doing the seasonal review, getting that done. So I think I don't have a strong feeling this way, but I think I would vote for that being our first thing, and then moving on into the other stuff. Over to you, Austin.
Sorry, I'm just trying to move somewhere to a little more quiet. So I met with a friend today who I think you might know, Ronnie, Mandolin, know of her, and she is someone that is really interested in what we're doing, and has a lot of connections, specifically related to outreach and connectivity. She participated in some food sovereignty movements in her home state of, I think, North Carolina. So that's someone that getting connected with here in this city should be really helpful. She's not currently employed, also, and so we are sufficiently motivated to get some kind of revenue stream, and so we can talk about how we want to bring her in, and what you know, what conversations you'll want her to be a part of, what conversation she'll want to be a part of. But yeah, yeah, that's the only kind of like update that I've got at the moment. So I'll pass to you, Ronnie.
Awesome. Yeah, I noted that in our discussion notes. That'd be great if she wants to plug in and help us grow the network. Okay, so I agree about doing the seasonal review. And I think some of the social media questions might fit in / come out of that as well. So I'm going to open that task. And so our general questions for consideration are, given what we've done, where are we now? So we're looking back to the previous season. So I guess, was it starting in May?
Yeah, I think so. About then.
The last 3 to 4 months. Given what we've done, where are we now? Given where we are now, where do we want to go? And given where we want to go, what seem like the next steps? So do we answer those first, or do you think, Ben, we could just go through the steps?
Yeah,
1
I
through
think
4?
those are really kind of contextual questions that.
Okay.
So yeah, I think we can go through the rest and see what comes.
Awesome. So our first step is Roland is here. I just want to make sure he's.
Bring him up to speed.
Yeah. Where did he go?
Oh, there he is.
Hi, Roland. We are just starting our seasonal review, so you're right on time. We have our general questions here at the top, and then we're going to go through the steps 1 through 4. And our first step is to remind ourselves of the Guild aim in context of the Lifeboat Academy. So what is outreach and what is the purpose of outreach and network? What are we trying to do? Yeah, so I'll pass it to, so the circle now, as I see it, is Ben, Austin, Roland, and me. So over to you, Ben. What is the Guild purpose?
It's right there in the name. So really about keeping the flow of information happening to the people who are interested in the network, and also finding ways of connecting with and bringing new interest into the network. I'll just leave it like that. Over to you, Austin. And you can always pass if you feel you contribute what you feel you can. And part of the value of the circle is, we're all in this together. So no one has to carry the load. Over to you, Austin.
Thank you. Yeah. I'm not sure I have anything to contribute. I'm just here to kind of absorb all of this. This is my first time attending a guild meeting. So yeah, I'll follow your lead for the moment and pass to Roland.
Tentacles. That's what the outreach guild is. Tentacles, reaching out and bringing in. It is the funnel for communicating Lifeboat Academy writ large activities. So the other guilds connect with the Outreach Guild for the moving outside of the permeable boundaries of the organism of the Lifeboat Academy, and So that's the reaching out, and then and to pull back in, it is well, and everything is also and, right? So it is the communication systems, the social media. It is the actually also gatherings either online or physical, wherever they might happen. And I'm really looking forward to the Outreach Guild being involved with Lifeboat Academy gatherings that are not on Pender Island. That would be an awesome accomplishment. Yeah, so that's what comes to me right now. So over to Ronnie, I believe.
Yeah, this all sounds great. And I honestly have nothing to add. This is very comprehensive. Do people feel good to go on this one? Awesome. And I changed the bullets and then the numbers got weird. Formatting. Okay. We have, okay. All right, accomplishments. What have we accomplished over the past season? Over to you, Ben.
Well, I think one of the accomplishments has been, and this came up in the Heartwork Guild, has been managing the development of the 6 conversations, which was a both and working back and forth between outreach and Heartwork, figuring out who was responsible for which parts, and how that got covered. So I think that was a real, and so it was simultaneously getting the 6 conversations going and also refining how guilds work with other guilds. So I'll pass it around. Over to you, Austin.
I feel accomplished in that I have reached out to some of my peers and let them know about what we're doing, and that's all been in person, and kind of overcoming some of my like self-doubt and that feels like a big accomplishment for me. So yeah, I'll pass to Roland.
I think the first thing I want to say as an accomplishment is that we have a new guild member. We've attracted a new guild member, which is awesome. I think also an accomplishment is that we have been living, and this is my new word for the next little while because there's always a new word, iterative. We've maintained our iterative approach to things. So I think sort of building on what Ben mentioned, that we started out with the Outreach Guild, and as we've been doing things and using the system and being involved in the guild, we've been working out what the guild actually is. That sort of more organic way of doing things. So there's a 6 conversations. There's also working at communicating the whatchamacallit, the fall. Sorry. I run to get here and my brain is all like, because I don't actually have time to sit and take a breath. So I'm having a hard time putting my words together. The thing that we're doing in the fall with all the things, whatever
Semester.
The semester, the fall semester, thank you. Approaching that iteratively also, one of the things I hope we get around to is talking about lessons learned around around the fall semester outreach and the AMAC reflect of it. So over to Ronnie.
I really don't have much to add. I think this is pretty complete. I just wanted to reiterate how awesome the 6 conversations was, to have a whole group of people committed to a 6-week thing. We hadn't done that before, and it worked and it went really well. So there's definitely been a lot of trying new things and experimenting and growth. And also, I think we've done a really good job in this guild specifically not doing things that don't work. Because with social media, there's a lot that we've tried. There's a lot of different ways you can do posts and reach people and I think what we do works, at least to a degree. And I think we've kind of pruned away things that didn't seem to be getting as much attention. I think there's definitely a lot more we could be doing, but as you know, there's always the capacity issue. But overall, I feel like the experimental approach has really served us in not wasting time and energy on stuff when the internet is very quickly becomes like a black hole of that. So let me just write that down. And yeah, we have a new guild member here with us. My friend Ruth is signed up for Connect the Dots. She came to the orientation. She's really excited to get involved. So not only is she a new recruit, but she's someone who seems to be very aligned and very interested and have a lot of energy to put towards it. So we're definitely doing some things right. The fact that she read our website and was like, oh, I get it. This is great. So yeah, moving and grooving on that. Anything else you want to do another round? Any other recent accomplishments? Over to you, Ben.
I don't really have anything to add, but I do want to, I just want to do a ditto because I think it is both the iterative, like remembering that the 6 conversations grew out of the old lifeboat circle and a recognition that one time around the circle was not enough, and creating that opportunity to be able to expand it. And likewise, kind of, so that's an example of growing something and then pruning at the same time, and I think that's actually, maybe I'm kind of going into lessons learned that but yeah, it is the value of that iterative approach, letting go of what doesn't work, feeling where there is energy to grow something. Yeah, very cool. So I pass it over to Austin. I guess are we moving then into lessons learned? Okay, cool. I'm good with that. So lessons learned, over to you, Austin.
Not sure I have anything to contribute to this specific step, since I'm just getting my feet wet. So I'll pass the roll on.
I am working on developing and improving communication, both inter and intra guild. I think is something. Over to Ronnie.
Last summer, spring/summer, our whole big thing was relational networking, because we were contending with, we built this CRM, this customer relationship management database, and we're contending with social media. And also we want to be relational, because all of the work that we do is relational. And so how do we do that online? How do we be relational and also make sure people have all of the information and know what we're offering? And I think that we're, based on the fact that we do have new people coming and joining things, and these are people, you know, that like for example, Ruth and Austin, who I have already had a relationship with. I think we're doing a good job leaning into being relational. You know, the relationship that Ben has been building with Brad Smith, and the possibilities there. So I think we're doing a good job of balancing being relational in cyberspace and over Zoom, and how that can happen. Um, and I would also like to see that grow in terms of, you know, if Austin makes videos about, you know, talking about the Lifeboat Academy, I think that is a way of being more relational, while also, you know, that's something that we can easily share with lots of people. So just thinking about ways to deepen that engagement, while maintaining that balance, I think is really key. Over to them.
Yeah, I think this is kind of building on that, is also resisting there are a lot of forces that want to pull us out of relational networking, especially kind of a sense of urgency. You know, that kind of the relentless deadline driven capitalism, you know, faster, bigger. And actually that's faster and bigger, you know, those like, it's got to be big, it's got to scale. And being able to and that, I think this is maybe part of the lesson learned here, is how everything is interdependent. So a lot of what the Heartwork Guild is doing, and the way that we're walking the talk in terms of, you know, like we take the time to do a land acknowledgement, and we take the time to revisit our agreements. I think that helps us resist all of those forces that are like bigger, faster. And not that there's anything wrong with figuring out how to scale it up and, you know, how to be sort of more efficient in what we're doing, but really holding on to that core of, it's going to take time to connect with people. It's going to take time. That's also part of the iterative part, is it takes time to get the message right. And you can't just, you know, it doesn't matter how long you work it, you kind of have to try it out. You have to talk to people and see what resonates and what doesn't. And that all takes time. And you know, we live in a culture that is very much about faster. And so so that. Over to you, Austin.
Yeah. Am I okay to stay in here?
Okay.
Okay. Sorry, I'm gonna have to leave here shortly.
Thanks. It's a wall in my room. Because
that was a whole conversation that I had with Mandolin today, and she is someone who through a whole
the witching hour is dead
organization that
Sarah and
she
I are
became involved with at some point.
Just the two of us. But we're gonna video record it. So I was like, no one
through a whole organization that she became involved with at some point, she became connected with a large number of people who were all very eager to cultivate something very similar to what you have here, to what the Lifeboat has cultivated, and yet that project, whatever it was, did not succeed. Largely, in my opinion, just, you know, from what she was talking to me about, due to a lack of infrastructure and you know, a lack of careful thought and consideration. And I had to kind of push back on her, because she's like, you know, there are so many people that want to be connected with this type of thing, that are seem very motivated to make something happen now, right? Given the urgency of the poly crisis. And so she enjoys connecting people and getting everyone together in one space. She's very good at it. I will say that is actually a great talent of hers. But what I had to remind her was all the things that you were just saying, Ben, about the need to take the time to get it right, and to be patient with the process, because this is not something that can be rushed. And in fact, when it is rushed, it results often in violence. And so that, I think, will likely be a tension that we'll have to navigate with her. And I look forward to her being part of this project, because she's a very passionate person, but she really wants to get things done quickly. And you know, and that's just part of the inner work, right? And we don't have to do that work all the time. But since I am having to go here, I just wanted to say that, oh yeah, I like that. Move at the speed of trust. Yes, yes, yes. I was thinking that I have not had a chance to put like a schedule for myself on paper, to figure out when I'm going to have opportunities to do some of the things that I want to do. But I've got something in the works, just a personal schedule just for me. I do think that it is within my capacity to do at least one short form video, TikTok, 1 minute thing per day. And one longer form, something to put up on YouTube. And we can talk more about the ideas that I've had. That would go back to the kind of review process for submissions, and the you know, we can talk about that again soon. But just wanted to put that out there, that I do think I do think that's within my capacity to contribute. So yeah, I got to get going to my job. Thank you so much for this conversation, and I'm sorry I have to leave early, but I'll go ahead and pass to Roland. Y'all have a great night.
Austin. See you later.
This all looks pretty complete. Nothing to add. Over to Ronnie.
Yeah, I don't think I have anything to add. Over to Ben.
I'm good. Yeah,
Great.
I think this is great.
All right, so refining our aim. So we have projects and focus for the fall, and then we have chores and badges. So in terms of projects and our focus for the fall, I think a lot of it is already happening. I'll just write, we have our fall semester offerings, which have included orientation, sociocracy, DIY webinar, connect the dots, nav sessions, and agreement circles. And these are all things that we are promoting and maintaining contact with people. I'll put that for now. Over to you, Ben.
Well, and it makes me think that this is kind of where I think we can hop to the other parts of the agenda, because I feel like the things that Roland put on the list are really well, some of it's chores, because I mean the chores would be the newsletter and the social media. So actually, now that I'm thinking about, so under, yeah, chores would be newsletter and social media, and then some of the projects, which I always think of projects as infrastructure development. So how do we get more efficient at the chores? Like, what are some of the things that we need to work on? And what Austin was talking about, sort of video content, whatever Austin's sort of supplemental stuff might be, that's kind of a project. How does that work? How does that get integrated? And then it's the the stuff that Roland pointed out. What's our review process? What's our schedule? And with that schedule question, there's sort of a sub point, which is like, what's the technology? Where does stuff like that happen? Because, a lot of this is we're going to write down, whatever the date for submission is. Where does that go so we don't forget it once we decide it? And, but yeah, I feel like pretty much this section just feels like the going back to our bigger agenda. Over to you, Roland.
Zelda was raising a ruckus, so I had to try to figure out what was going on, and I still don't know what was going on, but I'm back now, and I'm feel like I've missed something. Or where this is the refine and aiming. So
Yeah. What's our focus for the fall? Looking forward to the fall, what should we be focused on?
I think I agree with Ben there. Over to Ronnie.
I agree too. So I will take us back. There we go. Okay, so our first 3 bullets, /4. We're talking about a deadline time for submissions to the newsletter, as well as what is the review process for those submissions and the newsletter as a whole. Do you want to start there?
Yeah, why not?
Okay. All right, over to you, Ben, for considerations for a deadline time and what's our review process.
Well, I mean, I think if we can post, it's a work backwards thing. So we want to have the news. So my apologies for the delaying the newsletter by a day, but I didn't know we were going for Monday. So that's actually just being clear. And I think Monday makes sense, like beginning of the week, and it shows our list for the week, or for the 2 weeks or whatever it is. So then, yeah, it's just working backwards. And I feel like, especially as it feels like we're doing front loading work, because since we know the events, we know when the newsletters are going out, we know the form for the newsletter, there's going to be a lot of predictability. So then I think that means we can have probably a tighter timeline. Oh, actually, this is a total aside from Foodlands. We had the Foodlands Network Circle meeting last week, and we talked a little bit about how they do their newsletter. And one of the things that they do that I like as an idea is that the newsletter is like a 1-paragraph version, and then there's a longer thing that's actually on the website. So there's a link to the website. And so figuring out where we could have a longer form that goes on the website, and then the shorter form in the newsletter. And a lot of the stuff, like, we already kind of have it, because we've got something for the agreement circle, and we've got something for the so yeah, and I feel it's probably something just as simple as making sure we have, let's see, if it's going to go out Monday, if we can, I mean, ideally, if something's going to go out Monday, it'd be nice to have it done by Friday. So a draft ready on Friday for a Monday submission gives us a little buffer if there's anything that needs to get changed. And then probably like a Wednesday for if anybody wants to submit something that is, unexpected. So, no new items after Wednesday, and draft by Friday, and then submission on Monday. That's what I go with. So those are my thoughts. Over to Roland.
Yeah, I was thinking Friday seemed so soon, because but then I realized that part of the thing is that Ronnie takes Saturday and then we take Sunday off of stuff because we all need a day of rest. So it seems like Friday would make the most sense to have a draft ready so that on Monday any last little bits that need to be figured out can get figured out for it to go out. So I guess it depends on what's meant by a draft. Is it just sort of like something for us to look at and comment on? And I guess I'm going to leave that over to Ronnie actually, because since you've been doing the newsletter all by yourself, that you have a better idea of scheduling. Submitting by Wednesday makes a lot of sense because that also leaves a room for if anyone has anything late. It allows for a little bit of time. But yeah, submitting by Wednesday makes sense. I don't think I have anything to add really.
Yeah.
I think one of the things I'm wondering about is two things. One of them is having sort of a store of previous Medium posts to draw from and how to do that. And then the other one is, I've forgotten what the other one is. So I will pass to Ronnie.
I like the newsletter proposed drafting schedule. Once I have everything to put in it, it only takes me like half an hour to put everything in, proofread, change the title of the thing and the subject of the email and all of that little stuff. But it's really not, especially because if we're keeping up with it, it only changes in a few different ways. But yeah, so it's really not a big time commitment. And I think having a draft ready by Friday is like Friday during the day, I will send an email test of like, here's with all the submissions, this is my best draft. Please give your final feedback and thoughts. And then I'll just save it end of the day. And then Monday, ideally I'll just be able to, or even Friday, I could schedule it for Monday to go out. And then should anything come up, we can put it in. But but the draft by the end of the day Friday would be already reviewed and scheduled, ideally. I like the idea of having a shorter newsletter that goes out, maybe with like a couple pictures or something, and then click to take people to our website, because it's also something interesting to have on our website. So, and that also makes me think about, little blurbs about what's going on the farm, or Foodlands is doing this cool conference and we're going to it, or, having it be, I don't know, we could put whatever we want in the newsletter. So, yeah, that's what I have. Over to Ben.
Yeah, well, and I think it is also, and we're talking a bi-weekly newsletter, right? So that's also, this is only every other week, so it's not like, and I suspect that in the not too distant future, you could probably go through and actually bang out the rough draft for 2 weeks from now and 4 weeks from now and 6 weeks from now, because all the events are already planned. And so all of that kind of boilerplate stuff can be in there, ready to go. And then it becomes a question of, what's the interesting article? Because if we have a couple events and an interesting article, that's plenty for a biweekly newsletter. It doesn't have to be, it shouldn't be heavy. And it also, I think one of the things we're not doing, but I think this is an opportunity, is being able to send out for the, maybe like on Monday, the week of a newsletter, on Monday, there's an invitation to all guild members, to whoever in the network. Do you have anything to include, well, basically making it clear, we're already including the events. Do you have something interesting that you want to share? So it's not just Ronnie coming up with it or the three of us coming up with it, but that it's actually an invitation. And then that links in with the review process. So anything that is going to be new, who looks at it and how does that work? So, but yeah, I feel like the idea for the newsletter, and probably maybe the next thing to talk about is the social media, because then that also, what's in the newsletter rolls out in the social media. So it kind of sets it all up. So, I mean, I feel like this is a really, first of all, this is light years ahead of where we have been in terms of, having this kind of structure and process to follow. So I'm feeling really good about it. And I think the tricky part is going to be the review process. And so over to you, Roland.
So I see that we're also including the review process in this discussion. So that all sounds good. I agree. Having some sort of review process for things like Medium posts and memes and things that people submit, like you were just mentioning. We currently just have something that goes out and like somebody comment, and often it doesn't happen. So there's sort of a question of, and I think that it often doesn't happen because there's no sense of, oh, it's being asked of me kind of thing. So I think I would like to suggest that there is some sort of that people volunteer and agree to be regular reviewers of stuff, as opposed to just sending out an email and hoping that somebody will reply, or making a request at a meeting and, yes, that's a really great idea, and then it just goes on. And this also actually is I was also thinking about, we've been talking a long time. I think Ronnie's been trying a long time to have comments on the website. So it's all of the stuff where we either need to feel support. I think we need to feel support, and that it's actually that the other members of the Lifeboat Academy will agree to what's being put out in the name of the Lifeboat Academy. And there's no, I don't feel like there's something robust in place to help with that. Yes. So I've stated the problem. I've made a couple of suggestions, so I'm going to pass on to Ronnie.
So I had one idea, which is, so newsletters going out this week and our coordination circle is next week. So, and we usually Ben sends out an email saying Monday is coordination circle. And I'm wondering about a weekly email. It's basically like a guild members digest. So it's like coordination circle is Monday. I'm trying to think about, I'll just get the idea out. I don't know how it's going to work yet. But basically a section that says things for review. So it's like Ben's latest Medium post draft is here. Somebody else's thing is here. Newsletter draft is here. Please review these things when you have time this week and respond to let us know your thoughts. And so it's like everything is in one spot. People can just take 10 or 15 minutes to read the things, give some feedback. I'm not really sure how that solves the engagement problem, but it's at least a way to sort of make it more formal. Like, here are these specific things that we need feedback for. Maybe it could go out after the coordination circle. I don't know. I'm curious to know people's thoughts, though. Over to you, Ben.
Well, I was just thinking, you pointed out that, so, we were talking about Monday, a request goes out on Monday. Do we have any items? That's also the coordination meeting, because the newsletter goes out the Monday after, the week after. So the Friday, so that's, the schedule works really well. And so I'm thinking if what Roland was saying, I agree. I think we need some criteria so that it isn't just, do you like it? Or what are your thoughts? We need to develop some criteria for what makes something a lifeboat post, lifeboat appropriate. And I think that we have people, I'm always thinking about ways of engaging more people and asking people to do some light work. So like, if your job is just to be on the review board, and what that means to be on the review board is you're looking, does it match the criteria? Is it acceptable? Good enough for now, safe enough to try kind of thing. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be, I love it. If you notice typos or whatever, that's fine. I guess what I'm saying is, if we have a clear role that is separate from the guild, anyone could do this, right? It doesn't have to be during a guild meeting. So people who volunteer to be reviewers, and then I think what we can do is Monday, part of the coordination circle is, what's our special topic this week? Does anyone have anything? And there can also be, as the guild digest, there can be that request for items to include. We've also talked about how the Connect the Dots Club, what's the role there in developing things to go on the website. So I think this is also being a little bit more proactive of inviting people, like we did with Becca. It didn't necessarily, hasn't borne fruit. But Becca had an aha in one of our legal meetings. And we said, write that down, because her aha, the way she was going to write down her aha would be different. Then it would be something interesting. So I think, I feel like I'm circling around. We need to establish some criteria. We need to invite people to take on the role of being on the review board, whatever we want to call it. And we need to be clear about the ask and the offer. And I think that the ask is by Wednesday, what you were saying, Ronnie. So Monday is the coordination circle and the invitation for submissions. By Wednesday, there is a file of things to review, and that could just be a folder, a Google folder link. And it could be a Medium post draft. It could be memes. It doesn't have to be all the memes, but memes that, I'm not sure about this quote. I want to get some feedback. And people then would have from Wednesday to Friday to take a look at it and to, give a thumbs up, thumbs down, comments. So then it's a really specific ask for what people, it's predictable. I know I might receive something every 2 weeks that might be up to 3 items or something like that, or whatever. It's not going to be a huge number. Anyhow, that's my rambly. Over to Roland.
Yeah, that sounds good. I just want to make sure that I understand that, and what I'm suggesting is that we know who has volunteered to do the reviews, and there's actually a group that we can send. I really like the having clear criteria so that it's not just shot in the dark or getting the type of feedback that isn't particularly useful. Yeah, that all sounds good to me. So over to Ronnie.
I agree, and I'd love to just generate. Well, my first thought was we could just invite everyone in the guilds on the guild lists to be part of the review team. And I had another overarching thought, which is there's a lot of people on our list who just don't come to things and who don't engage. And I'm wondering if we want to make, like, as part of our seasonal review, do we want to do any shifting around of things with those lists? Do we want to reach out to people and say, are you interested? Are you not interested? That was just, yeah, a thought that I had that I think might be useful. But yeah, are there specific people that we would like to ask to review things? I think April did volunteer. Anyone else remember that?
Probably.
I think she's worth asking.
Likely. It sounds likely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And are there other people that we might like to reach out to? Over to you, Ben.
Yeah, well, I think definitely yes to, I've been sending reminders to the 6 conversations, the guild, and the navigation session list. I have been doing some sort of individual editing on, there's some people that are on the list. I'm like, we haven't heard from them in forever. And so I just removed them from the list, but I think doing a check, and I guess that's an outreach and network chore. Probably it makes sense seasonally, at least annually, but probably seasonally, just to have an email that goes out that is individualized. Anyhow, I don't want to get into the grass on that, but yeah, I think we should follow up with folk and just say, hey, it's cool if you don't want to be involved, and we'll just take you off the list. And yes, I think to say, once we have a role description, we're looking for reviewers. Here's, what's being asked is every 2 weeks, you'll get an email on Wednesday with a link to some materials with a set of criteria, and we'll ask you to take a look and give us your feedback. And I do think it's also, I think we can cast the net wide for the reviewers, and then we have a subset on Friday that looks at, like the 3 of us, like we have been for the newsletter, where we take into account those reviews and feature it, or figure out what we do with it. But I think that makes it such a simple thing to ask for. It's like every 2 weeks, and it's you're not the one editor. It's it's for your feedback, and I think there's lots of people that should be interested in that. And that could actually develop into that MOOC idea of people, because it could be, hopefully it's interesting stuff, and people would want to be engaged with it. And I think it's a light way for people to get more engaged. So yeah, I feel like this is kind of an actionable idea at this point. Over to you, Roland.
I feel like at one of the recent coordination meetings, I think it was when we were talking through Sandra's email that of sort of pulling back from the Lifeboat Academy, that we also talked about guilds contacting guild members to check on their interest in remaining part of the guild. So this kind of feels like a reminder for me of something that we had talked about, but I think we were supposed to bring it to the next outreach meeting, and that it got sort of lost. So I feel like we've already had this discussion and that we've already agreed, and I think it's just figuring out the format for doing it. So this is my memory, and we know that my memory isn't always accurate, so I'm going to pass over to Ronnie.
Could we say that the caretaker of each guild is tasked with sending those emails to their guild members over the next couple weeks?
This is where I think it may make more sense for it to come from one source, because lots of people, you know,
Oh, I see.
there's overlap, and so sort of a single, because that's how we sent out the invite to the guilds, which was, here are the guilds, what are you interested in?
That's true.
And I think I agree with Roland. I think it's just figuring out the how to, because, you know, in an ideal, how I would like it, if I could just blink and make the technology work this way. We had people fill out I will follow along but not attend meetings. I plan to attend meetings. I might attend meetings, something like that for each of the guilds. And it would say, here's what you said. Does it change? You know, but I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to make the technology do that.
Yeah.
And likewise for people with new interests, like for Ruth and Austin, we should have you know, something that says, hey, you know, and here are the guilds and how do you want to be involved? Anyhow, back to you. I'm sorry I jumped circle.
Yeah, that makes sense. I don't really feel like I have a solution to this in this moment, and I'm also thinking about other stuff that we wanted to talk about.
And I don't think it's urgent. I don't think we have to
Okay.
figure it out this week.
Agreed.
So yeah, let's table that. And then in terms of inviting people to be part of the review team, is there anybody who feels called to take that on?
I think the one thing that might still be holding on is the criteria. Like, do we want to invite people to the review team first, or do we want to have some sense of the criteria first?
Actually, I think that
I've been jumping out of the circles to go.
It's fine. Go ahead. Go ahead, Roland.
Okay. Well, and because I was, in fact, I was just wondering, how do we come up with the criteria? Is it one person? Is it at a guild meeting like this, or is it getting people who are interested together to work it out? And I kind of feel like, yes, and I know patience is one of our agreements, and therefore I shall finish my sentence in my own time. Thank you very much. Anyway, I feel like it may be a intra-guild discussion as opposed to asking people to come up with the criteria, because as an engagement tool, that might be too much to start off with. So that's my comment, and we're popcorning. So over to you, Ben, I think.
Oh, I don't really have anything to add. Sort of, we have that written down already because it's actually part of the Connect the Dots program. So I think session 3 is all about what are the criteria. So we're going to brainstorm things, cluster them, and then talk about why do you recommend some things over other things. And I feel like there's going to be a huge amount of overlap. So I think we can think specifically that one of the things that we want to come out of the Connect the Dots Club is a set of criteria for what are things that we prioritize. So then I think you're right. We don't want this to be one person writing it down. It's part of a collaborative process already. So yeah, cool. Check.
Great. We don't
Back
have
to
to
you,
do
Ronnie.
the same thing 2 times. We can just do it once. Awesome. Okay. So now I'm going to pivot over to talking about our social media presence. And so some things that we talked about in the past, some of which are already ongoing, is I've been doing a post on the Monday of each week that has a list of all the events for that week. Yeah, that's what I did. And then sharing that to stories. And then I had already posted the graphic for each event, each type of event, and I share those to the stories. I try to share those to the stories. What's the word? Often, regularly. And I put little messages like, we still have some spots left, or sign up here, or whatever. We'd also talked about having quotes, not just memes with quotes from other people, but quotes from Ben's Medium posts, like things that are provocative that are gonna invite more discussion. And we also talked about when we do start the navigation sessions and we have the topics for each one, we can say, next week's topic is blah, 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 and then ask a question related to that to also generate discussion. So just different ways of playing with kind of what we're already doing, but incorporating more of our content into it. So thoughts, considerations about social media. Over to you, Ben.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what the question is because I thought we had this. Yeah, I mean, this feels like a list. So I wasn't sure why it's on the agenda. So over to you, Roland.
I think I asked for it on the agenda because it was an upshot from the meeting that I missed that I viewed, and it was in conversation. It was part of the conversation that you had with Austin. And so I kind of feel like this is a conversation I'd like to put on the back burner until Austin is here so that we can talk about it. And it was really about, I just have a whole bunch of questions about, you know, I think he indicated that he had a much larger number than we have of TikTok followers. So what does that look like? How does that happen? Does he know even? Or did it just happen? And also he was asking us for what kind of frequency are we looking for in terms of like how much of a social media presence do we want? What are the goals and that kind of thing? So I kind of wanted him to be part of the discussion around what that would be, because part of it is, well, I don't understand how social media works. And I don't know, I got the sense that he may have a better idea, but I don't know. I don't even know that because I wasn't able to ask him directly. I was hoping to ask him today, but I couldn't. So the other thing I was noting from when both you and Ronnie and Ben were talking, that in terms of pulling out quotes from the Medium posts or from other things, that could actually be one of the criteria that we consider for the review board, since they'll already be reading these documents and whatever's sort of like or ahas or interesting or whatever that it's sort of already a place where that can happen. So over to Ronnie.
Yeah, that all makes sense. And I'm glad Austin did say, he's working on his own time management and sort of what will he be able to commit to. So yeah, there's definitely more conversations to have there. I like the idea of asking the review board to also pull quotes or passages that they find interesting. I think that's really useful because then we're not guessing at what other people will be into, but we'll actually have different perspectives. Quite a collaborative way of putting things out into the world, which is really cool. Okay, so I feel like we're good on those fronts. And then we have wanted to talk about the strategy with video and recording and letting people know ahead of time, basically asking consent for people to be on camera, um, which I feel like we used to do, and it kind of just got lost. I think because I don't know, we had so many guild meetings, and it's just like, yeah, we're recording, blah blah blah. But I think it's worth, especially if someone's new, like Ruth, like asking, what's your level of comfort with being on camera, and then just making sure um, that we note that. And yeah, is there any other considerations around this topic? Over to you, Ben.
The only thing is a new piece of information that I think is really useful, which is when we record Zoom, you can have a gallery or a speaker view. And so it does mean that, because I think in the past, we've always thought, I have been thinking about if there was one part of the content that people were concerned about, as opposed to in general, I don't want to be seen. But obviously on Zoom, people can rename themselves and they can blank their screen when they're talking, or whatever makes them feel comfortable. And because you can do speaker view, we were talking today about gallery view makes sense when we're talking in guilds because it's nice to see everybody. But that's not a requirement. We could also do speaker view and then, but I think I think our original habit was a good one of saying, we are recording this for other people who can't be here. If you have any concerns, you can change your name, you can blank your screen. The only thing for me is I don't want, I feel like it's unfair for somebody to keep us from recording the session entirely, because then they're making decisions that affect a lot of people who can't be at the meeting. So there's got to be some, like, I don't want somebody just to be able to say, well, I don't want this to be aired because I'm going to be here. And this is maybe worth a little bit more conversation, but I think I kind of feel like with that, by putting it in speaker view and letting people blank themselves and having that announcement at the beginning, that should take care of most of it. My thoughts. Over to Roland.
Yeah, this came up for me because I became aware of one person who has not been attending because this person has no social media presence at all because of stalking.
Stalker.
Stalking, a serious problem with a stalker. And I know of a second person who could potentially be interested, and I don't know if one of the reasons they haven't been participating is for the same reason. They're still on social media, but they've removed any image of themselves from social media, and take a lot of pictures of their pets instead. So what I was thinking, so the gallery view, and I've already done it for the Sociocracy 101 video. I downloaded or I uploaded to YouTube the gallery view, because that also allows us to remove, more easily remove images or whatever of people if they after the fact don't want to be visible. And so what I was wondering about was I think you went through a whole bunch of options that would allow for people to still participate when something is being recorded, Ben. And I was wondering about some way of being able to communicate that instead of just saying, this is being recorded. If you don't want to be recorded, let us know and we'll cut it out. But, is there some way it could be, I don't know, could be a link to a page on our website that people can go to if you want to participate. These are the things that you can do if you have privacy issues or whatever. I don't know. But just some way of being able to communicate that there is, other than completely removing yourself or asking us not to publish something, what are other options that people could follow to still be able to participate. So, and that feels like it fits within our agreements also about being able to present options or addressing concerns and that kind of thing. So over to you, Ronnie.
Yeah, that all makes sense to me. Yeah, I think it's important for us to post things so that other people can watch them, and there's lots of ways to not be visible. So it's up to us to say that and to invite people to do that, and then it's up to them to do that. So it's a two-way street there. Do we feel good about that for now? Okay. Last thing on the agenda was anti-spam legislation in Canada. Roland, did you want to say anything about that?
Yeah, well, and that's something else that I discovered is that the regulations in Canada aren't this that it's a country by country thing, and so there was some concern about some things that have come through the Lifeboat Academy that we're encouraging to happen that could fall under the an anti-spam. And I think the example that was given to me was the grief workshop, because there was a fee listed and something to do. And this is why I think it would be useful to look at what the anti-spam regulations are to avoid being thrown into problems.
That's not covered by spam at all, because that is a personal email. It's not a you can email anyone about anything and forward, I mean, that's not spam. It's just not spam. Spam is, and if you look at, I mean, I brought up the spam website, and this is talking about if you capture people's email for some reason, like we're only sending to people that are on our personal email list, who we have actual contact with. We can send them anything we want, and it's not covered by spam. It's if we are purchasing, or if we are putting up like a phishing site where sign up for this contest, win a something or other, and then all of a sudden we start sending them all sorts of ads, that's spam. But I can't imagine that's an email, that's a personal email to people that we know, and it's not a purchased list, it's not an email that's been captured or anything like that. So yeah, I mean, considering the amount of actual spam that is out there, the stuff that we send is so not even rising to that level.
Good. I did want to bring it up because it was a concern that was brought to me.
Yeah, it seems like if we have obtained people's consent to send them things, which we have, then it's not an issue. And also for the grief workshop, I only sent it to people I know personally. So that wasn't a mass message that was sent out, as far as I am aware.
Yeah, it wasn't sent out through MailChimp.
Yeah, I sent it through our Lifeboat email, only to people I have relationships with.
Yeah.
So
well, one of them talked to me.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And I don't think that they were upset. I don't think
Yeah.
that they were upset. I think that they just had concerns. And so I'm bringing it to the guild because it is the guild to talk through these things.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I'm
Um,
I feel a need to say, because I am concerned about those concerns that, you know, one of our principles is transparency and also relationality. And one of the things that we've talked about is supporting people in the network by sharing information about what people are doing. And I'm concerned that you know, that kind of like fear of, you know, crossing some sort of boundaries, it just seems to me like it's this uh I'm worried that it would put a chilling effect on how we want to be with each other, that we would all of a sudden be afraid to share information about one of our partners because, oh, is that, you know, are the lawyers going to get upset? And you know, that's the last thing that I want. And I can recognize how do we address those concerns when the concern itself is what feels like a reaction.
Oh,
Yeah,
oh.
go ahead.
I think it's a Catherine Hayhoe situation. I think that, you know, these kinds of things are going to happen all the time because we are all swimming in the same waters.
yeah.
And there's a lot of fear in the waters that we swim in. And so this becomes an opportunity to be able to, oh, this seems to be coming forward. How can we address, how can we talk to people? No, I think, well, and this is one of the reasons why I'm excited about the opportunity of having the agreement circles be open to people, because I think that that would be a great place to be able to talk about, well, what are our agreements? What does it mean to be involved with the Lifeboat Academy? And what does that mean in terms of the larger world? So I think that this is just data, it's just information, and that we have an opportunity to figure out if there's anything to do and what we can do to that would be helpful.
Hmm.
Especially helpful in putting forward, you know, sort of frequent reminders about the things that we are trying to address and the things that we are trying to change.
Hmm.
And we're not in circles. So I'm done for whatever comes next.
I was
Me
just
too.
going to say too that there are ways that we, you know, given that information, we can, if we're promoting an event that someone is doing in the network that costs money, just tack it onto the newsletter. So we're sending out a newsletter that somebody's already subscribed to. They've fully consented to receive this communication. And there's a little blurb at the bottom that's like, here's this thing that someone's offering. And so people aren't going to feel like, oh, I got blindsided by this whole email about this other thing that I've never heard of. Like, we can avoid that.
Hmm.
Well, and then I think I really like that because it also becomes an opportunity to be able to say, you know, this is a member of the Lifeboat Academy, or this is one
Right.
of the partners, and that we are supporting them by blah 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 blah. Here you
Yeah.
go. Here's the
Mhm.
information, and then that also underlines the mutual aid that is the Lifeboat Academy.
Yeah. Yep. Cool. You did it.
Yep.
We have another thing in an hour and a half. Ben, are we meeting half an hour early?
Yeah.
Okay. Sounds good.
Next for the next meeting, or
Yeah,
For
to
the
facilitate,
connect the
connect
dots.
the dots.
okay.
Just half an hour early for the facilitators.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds good. Well, thank you, everyone, and I will see you soon.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.